No, it's dark home.
Is it?
Your heads are cut off. There.
We're having trouble loading the video.
Can you hear them? Oh my god.
Oh, no, we're good.
Okay.
Oh. Oh, no, I was good. It keeps glitching.
Is that good?
There it is.
Can you hear?
Yeah, we're good.
Mhm.
Hello, everyone.
Okay, sorry for the technical difficulties.
Yes.
Again. I
Yeah.
feel like that's every week now.
Yeah. It's week 9. I don't know if you can tell, but we're slumped. We're drained.
Yeah, but welcome to First Gen Talks, everyone. We're
Yes.
super excited for all of you to join us today. We're all super excited to be here because this week is an amazing topic. And I think it's really relevant, especially with a lot of our students going on break. Right? We're talking about
Family and first generation experience.
family and first generation experience. And I think with many of you starting to head home after you finish finals, I think this topic is perfect, right? Really talking about family. So we are super excited. So we're going to dive into a little bit about family and just a first gen experience. And I don't know if one of you wanted to start by chance?
Sure. I guess I'll just start off with a question.
I was gonna do a quick announcement.
Oh, announcements.
The last podcast we did, it was supposed to be a YouTube video. I never hit record on the laptop, so we will have this first video up soon, and I will put the link up there for our YouTube. So yeah, just wanted to put it up there.
I guess we'll start. I'll start with a simple question. I guess.
Yeah.
How big
you're
is
ready.
the family influence on first generation students?
Oh.
Ooh, that's a good question.
From your personal experience, of course.
Yeah.
Personally, for me, well, both of my parents, they didn't go to college, of course. My dad only went to 8th grade by the time I was born. And my mom was pregnant her senior year when she got her high school diploma. They never were like, oh, you need to go. They never, like, forced me, but they were like, gave me a reality check. They're like, you can either continue your education or you can work a job that you don't like for the rest of your life.
Mhm.
They put it in that kind of perspective. And they weren't like, if you don't go, you're getting kicked out or anything like that. They just gave me the truth. They're like, you're either going to work, bust your ass off at a place that you either don't and do like, or you could go further your education. They knew, like, they always told me, they're like, we know you're smart. We know you could do it. So, but I know, they always told me too, they just didn't know how the process worked. So,
Yeah, I think very similar to you. I think family has a huge influence, right? So, again, I think for many of us first gen students, we're kind of setting a path for everyone else. And kind of like Brianna, my parents, I think my mom only made it to like about the equivalent of middle school. And then my dad made it to high school. He didn't get to graduate high school, but he actually went on because he wanted to be a priest. So he actually finished all that. But right before he was going to get his own like church in a way, he backed out last minute. But for me in particular, I mean, I think family had such a huge influence. My mom would always say, she would have a saying, she's like, do you want to be a pendejo the rest of your life? And it's like, if you do not want to be a pendejo the rest of your life, like, go get an education. So I think for me, it was like one of those things that it stopped being like, hey, you should go to college, and more of an expectation of like, you are expected to go to college. You have to go to college. And if you're not going to go to college, like, you are not going to be having like those kind of office jobs, which I think isn't completely true, to be honest with you. But I think my parents were really trying to make sure that their message was getting across. So yeah, how about you, George?
So definitely, it's a very big influence in all first generation students, especially in a good or bad way. So for me, instance, I was never going to plan to go to college. I was working, I was making money, I was working at warehouses. I love working at warehouses. Like, even till today, I miss it. It's just like fun. It's just a fun place that I like to work on. But definitely, I had to grow up. I was like, well, I mean, this job is nice. I like it. I could do this for a long time. But like, is this really the best situation for me at the moment? So yeah, when I went back to school, my mom was very supportive. So I never really had that issue. It was more like on my cousins and like my other family. Like, they didn't go to college, so they were more like, let's go out, let's go do this, let's chill. Like, why do you go to school for? Like, you could do it tomorrow. So it's definitely like, it was more of that influence on my side. But the family support was always there. And even now that I'm doing my master's, it's either more. I mean, it's there even more.
Yeah.
So definitely, I think there's going to be a family influence, a good and a bad. But at the end, you have to like realize that you're doing this for yourself, right? Even though your family might not see that at the moment, you have to realize like, yeah, I'm doing this for myself, but I'm also doing it for you. And you don't see it right now, but in the future, it is going to pay off, and they are going to see those benefits in the long run.
with my family, I know, like, one side of my family was kind of like rude about it. Like, they were like, oh, so you think you're better than us now, or like.
Oh, that's the worst.
Yes. So jumping into exactly what Brianna is going to go into, right? So I think it brings up a great question. Many of our students are going to go back home for spring break, and for many of our students too, this was their first quarter, right? So let's dive a little bit deeper into that and exactly what Brianna was about to bring up.
Yeah. Oh.
No, oh, sorry. Like I think you brought up something great. What is the experience like for you all? Now I think for George and I, now that we have at least one of our degrees and maybe both of our degrees, like, what does that look like in the family dynamic? And two, like, Brianna, maybe you can talk a little bit about this too, and maybe George and I too. But like, after your first semester of college, your first quarter of college, and going back home, especially around the holidays when you get to see all your family, what was that experience like?
So for me, when I started my first year, which was like 2 years ago, I would say my cousins were around the same age, and they were being sort of rude about it because I would sometimes do homework. I was a commuter student, so I would bring my school outside of school. I would bring it home, and I would be doing homework and assignments and stuff like that, even during family parties. I wouldn't do it the whole time, but I would need to get it done. And
she's like doing tequila shots, or she's like writing her
exactly,
paper, writing
yes.
reports.
They're cutting the cake, and I'm just like, yeah, I want that.
Yeah.
And like that, it sucked because my cousin would look at me like and be like, "Oh, you think you're smarter now?" Or like they'll tell my tias and then like, "Oh, she talks like she's sophisticated." And I'm like, I don't even talk like how people actually talk here. Like I just like I know we have different ways of speaking, and they just took it very like rude against me as like, "Oh, she thinks she's smart now. Oh, she thinks like she's better," or like they started saying that I'm white now because I go to college, and I was like, y'all, when I am on campus, like they do not see me white here. Let me tell you, like that is the opposite. So I was having like a hard time because it was like also pushing my identity again. Like I was like, am I really like connected to my roots? Is this really bad for me to be at college? Because they made me feel bad about it, and it sucked because like I understand, like, I'm so grateful that I am in college. And I try to, like, I remember we had, like, this whole family argument. It was at a party, of course. And I got in an argument with my family, like, some of my cousins, because I told them, we all started at the same, like, root. We all had each other when we were little, and so we all slept on that floor. We all slept, like, in apartments together and all that stuff. And I told them, it's like I try to offer them the resources too. Even when I was doing good now and they were in high school, I would still tell them, hey, do this so you can go. And I think you mentioned this earlier. You could provide anyone with the resources. It's just up to them to take those resources. And they never did that. They never like fell through with the advice I would give them. Or like I wasn't like, oh yeah, I'm not gonna tell you how to get in college. Like no, I would actually tell them like, hey, because they would actually be curious. Like sometimes they'd be sarcastic and be like, so how do you pay for college? And I'd be like, well, I'm not actually, like, paying for it, like, but there's FAFSA, there's grants, and then they'll actually be like, wait, what? Like, you're not paying for it? I was like, no? Like, you really think, like, I would be paying $70,000? Like, no.
74 here soon.
Oh, the 2% increase.
That's not much.
Because it's 72 now, I think, and then I think you're looking at 74 possibly.
Yeah, I'm paying that, right? And they were, like, starting to say, like, oh, we're rich. Like, wow, how does she go to college and stuff? And, like, even my tias and them were, like, asking, like, how do you go? Like, how do you do it? And I was like, I busted my ass off. Like, literally in high school, I wasn't just, like, I told them, like, we were like, my family isn't paying for it. I was like, I got scholarships. I was like, those times when y'all will go party and go out, like, with my family or when my cousins would go party, like, those fun parties and stuff, I stayed in. I did my essays. I did all of those recommendations. I did all that hard work. So now I could, like, not worry about that.
Yeah.
And, I mean, like, now it's better. Like, now they're totally accepting of it. That was my first year, so that was 2 years ago. And that whole argument changed everything. I think they got more insight into, like, it's not changing me, but it's, like, it's also a good thing. And they were able to see, like, it was an opportunity that I took. It wasn't just handed to me.
Yeah.
And, yeah, like, it's better now. I mean, it was time now. Like, now they're interested in coming to visit, like, the campuses. I have, like, one of my cousins tonight coming with me to a college event here, so.
Yeah. I think for me, I had kind of the opposite problem that you had, where it wasn't like, oh, my cousins were like, or my family was like, oh, you think you're better than us? Mm-hmm. If anything, it was kind of the opposite, where, not completely opposite, but more where they had bigger expectations for me. Mm-hmm. Like, oh, you are now the smart one. So you have to make the big decisions, or hey, like, we're leaning more on you. So I felt like a lot more pressure on me of like making sure that I was the brightest one, that I always had my shit together. And then my undergrad, right, was I did sociology and psychology, and so there would be like one, they didn't even understand my major, so they're like, "Oh, can you help our crazy members of the family?" And I was like, "Y'all fucking crazy! Like, I can't help that many of you. Like I, not even licensed. I took like a couple classes. Like, y'all need to chill."
Took the foundation.
Yeah. Right, exactly. And I was like, "What?" So I feel like they put a lot more pressure on me. Like even now too. Like I went and got my bachelor's, and then I went and got my master's, and now that like their expectations are so high of me, of like.
Imagine you to drive a Lamborghini.
Yeah, and then they think I'm like super rich, so then I have family members hitting me up, ask to borrow money, and I'm like, let me borrow money. Like I'm still trying to pay off some of these student loans. Like, what do y'all mean? And like, it's a misconception that like with a degree you become a billionaire, and it's like, no, you have a degree, but then you have to find a job, and it's a whole different process, right? And like, you might start a beginning job where it doesn't completely pay for everything you want, or you can't completely help the family yet because you're not getting paid enough. Especially in our field, education. Yeah.
I think the biggest challenge I had to go through was sacrificing family time. That's one thing I got the biggest critique. Because let's be honest, when you go to a family party, you're not gonna go for an hour. You're gonna stay the whole damn time.
The whole day.
Let's be honest, it's gonna happen. I've done it many times. And I've really had to step away from that during my undergrad because I was working full time. I was going to school full time. So some of the biggest things that my mom would always be like, "Why come you don't come to a family party? How come you don't come to this?" And some of those were really hard because some of those was my niece. Like I remember I missed her second, third, and fourth birthday. Not because I wanted to. I just had stuff to do. I was working, and the sacrifices that I had to make. And unfortunately, those are things that you wish you were there for. But just know that there's plenty of more of those things to come. And don't feel discouraged because you're gonna put school over your family because school's temporary, and you're gonna get all that time back eventually.
All those parties are stuff.
And they're gonna happen. You might be a little bit older when they happen, but you're still gonna be around your family. You're still gonna have a good time. But I think that's the biggest hurdle that I had to go through. Is definitely sacrificing the family time for school.
I think all three of us are the first in our families to kind of head off to college, right? Do you think based on that, your either younger siblings, your nieces, your nephews, your cousins that are younger, do you think it inspires them, or do you think it does the complete opposite?
Personally, with me, I know my brother inspired him right away. I mean, we're 9 years apart right now. He's 11. Yeah, he was. He was a little late baby, but I definitely inspires him. Like I brought him to like our family like dinner events and stuff like that, and it's so funny because he's very competitive, and I go along with it just because it makes me so happy because I love hearing him say, Brian, I'm gonna do better than you. Watch, I'm gonna go to your school and I'm gonna do better in grades and everything. Trying to be a show off and everything. I tell him like, oh yeah. I was like, really? I was like, I want to see that. But like, he thinks like it gets to me like, oh haha, like I got her. But like in my head, I'm like so happy because I'm like, that's what I want. I want him to have that drive to like go to college and to do better. Like I told him, I was like, yeah, go ahead, do it. And like it makes me so happy because it's like now he's seeing that this school and everything. Like he doesn't see it as like school. He's seeing it as like I want to go. And like he even talks about he's in 6th grade talking about college already. Like and like he asks me like, Brianna, do you have to do a lot of essays? And I was like, yeah. He's like, okay. Like he's like, how do you do those and stuff? Like he's so curious about that stuff, and it makes me so happy, honestly, because it's like that's like that at the end of the day makes me like, okay, you know what? Like even when I'm in my room, I'm like, why am I doing this stuff? I'm like, you know what? Someone is watching me, and that someone is my brother, and like I like it makes me so happy, and my parents too. Like I know it definitely inspires. Like I mean, my cousins now it kind of inspires them because they see like you know what she was able to do it. Like and she's still doing it. Like a lot of them didn't think I actually was gonna make it past the first year, and I'm in my 3rd year, and like they see like wow, like she's doing it, and, like she's doing good at it. Like it's not like I'm failing or anything. Like no shame to that or anything. But like
we all failed once.
Yeah. I almost did last quarter, but like a couple times. But I think that's what inspires them too, to see that someone from their family is definitely doing it, and like it's that resource, like they always come to me too. Like even now, like I know, like the cousin I'm bringing today, she like asked me, she's like, "Is it too late to go? Even though I didn't go after high school?" I'm like, "Girl, no, like you could still go."
Come talk to me.
Like you could still go, yeah. Like she graduated 2 years ago from high school. She's like 19, she's 19. So she's like, is it too late? So I'm like, no, like you could always go. I was like, it's just gonna be harder to get like those high school transcripts and stuff, but you could always go. I was like, it's not like you stop and stuff. And I think that's what sucks sometimes is because like they don't hear about those type of things. Like what can you do? Like if you don't go to college right away, like can you always go back and stuff?
Yeah.
I don't know. I had experience that inspires. Maybe you could talk
I
about.
think in a sense you put pressure on the younger siblings about you.
Yeah.
You put a lot of pressure because you're the first one. Let's be honest. So I didn't go back to school till I was almost 22. So my brother's 2 years younger than me, so he didn't see me go to college. My cousin, the year younger, didn't see me go to college. My cousin's older than me, didn't go to college. So when I was the first one to like actually like go back to school, it kind of like gave me a reality check. Like, oh shoot, this guy's going to college now. And then now that I graduated, like my younger siblings, I feel like you gotta put pressure on them. They're like, oh, should I go to college too, or should I?
I
So you kind of break the norm of your family of not going to college
Mm-hmm.
when you're the first one to end up going. And sometimes like you kind of create that little path for your family because now one of my younger cousins, she's about to graduate from UCD. She's a few years younger than me. She finishes in December actually. So I'm very proud of her.
Congrats.
My other cousin, he's actually a freshman now at UNC too. So he kind of like took those footsteps and I kind of helped him through that whole process. He's going through it. So in a sense, you kind of like create a little trend for your family when you're the first one to go to college. But at the same time, it could kind of bring pressure for them because their parents will be like, well, George went to college and you graduate. How come you can't go to college, you know? So, and I think everyone is different, but it does bring that family pressure along with it sometimes.
I think I had that problem. So I have a couple younger nieces, even a couple younger cousins, where it was constant comparing. Like,
Mm-hmm.
Alfredo did this, so why aren't you doing this? If Alfredo got this far, why can't you get that far? And it's like, no. So they were doing that to my younger niece. It's like, you need to be like Alfredo, you need to be like Alfredo. And she was getting very upset, and like I would come over and she like didn't even want to interact with me.
You think she took it out on you?
Yeah, she was like taking it out on me on the way, and I was like, "Look, girl, come here." Like, I was like, "Let's go get some ice cream. Let's go watch a movie," and then like really sat her down and had like a real conversation with her. And I was like, "I know they're doing this to you. I know it's not fair." And I was like, "Shit, it's not even fair to me because I'm like I'm not that great." I would really have the conversation of like, "Hey, like this is what college looks like, and you should be doing better." Like Brianna was saying, right? You shouldn't be doing what I'm doing, and we all have a different path. You should have your own path. And now it's been great because now that she's older, she's been able to attend youth leadership conferences, and now she's like. She makes me promise her that every summer to take her at least a college road trip. So she's actually going to be a senior next year. So she like
Nice.
hit me up and she's like, by the way, we're doing a summer road trip, and she's like, we're also going to do a winter road trip. And I was like, okay. So we're actually touring schools right now. And then she also asked me for an internship to work in the office over the summer, and I was like, sure, girl. I mean, I'm not going to pay you, but like if you want to do an internship, you can do an internship with me. And she actually did a couple campus tours. She like came to DU and she even brought her friends. She signed up. She couldn't do SummerLink, of course, which is a program through our office, but her friends were able to do SummerLink too, and it was just so great to have that opportunity, right? So I think as she gotten older, I've been able to build that relationship where it's more like a mentor. I think like right with your younger brother, or even some of your younger brother, or even some cousins or family members, and it's been so great. And I tell her, I was like, don't follow my path. Like you should be able to follow your own path, but it's great now that she has someone that can be like, this is how you do it, especially with someone that works in higher education and knows like the ins and out. But I also advise her, so she lives really close to DU, and she's like, I want to go to DU, and I'm like, no. I was like, I need you to go as far away as you could possibly can, right? Yeah, or like schools that are farther from home, where like you don't have that family pressure, because my family puts a lot of pressure on us, but my family has never completely understand that like when we're in college, it's we're focused. Like we don't have time for other things, and family doesn't completely get that. So
I think I want to kind of hop off that.
Yeah, come on.
You know, like this is the first year I live on campus, so I'm definitely more involved than I was the previous 2 years. I've taken a lot more on my plate. And it's like confusing my parents because like sometimes they'll text me or I have missed calls. And you know those missed calls for your mom where you're like, ooh, I didn't answer. I got those 3 calls before and I'm just like, like, do I call her back? Like,
and then when you finally picked up,
no, like she was like, so why do I pay your phone if you're not gonna answer? And I'm just like, oh my god. I was like, I get it. But I kind of explained to them, like, especially this year now that I live on campus and stuff, that like, hey, I'm gonna be more busier. I'm gonna be more out and about. Like, this is not like how it was like the other years where I would just go to classes, work, and straight home. I was like, now I'm doing other like stuff, and I try to explain to them like the thing about like community service or like being involved, and like it's like not even just work. Like I try to explain to them what it's like beyond like in memberships and other like organizations and stuff like that, and like trying to explain to them like this is what it is, and like letting them know because they're like, so is this your job? I'm like, no, but like I'm being involved, like this is what I do, and they're just like, but why? Like, and I have to explain to them, and like they understand that now, like that if I'm busy, like they know that I'm okay as long as I text them and stuff like that, letting them know I'm alive. But definitely like going off of that, like I'm so close to home, like they still get to see me, like if I do go back on the weekends and stuff, but like again, since they're so close to home, they put more pressure of like, are you okay? Like, what are you doing? Stuff like that. But like, this is the first time since like the first 2 years that now I'm off campus and stuff like that they get to see it, like the involvement and like the actual like your daughter is at college, like she's not home.
Yep.
I guess that's kind of like a little weird question. What's some of the biggest shocks you've seen, like you from your experience as a student, your experience as like student and faculty member, that you've seen with first generation students? And if you need time to think about it, I'll answer mine. I'll answer it first because I kind of have a good one. One of the biggest things that I find shocking is how big of a, I guess in a sense, I don't want to use the word dictatorship, but how big of, how Mexican dads, and I'm going to use it because I'm very similar with that background because I am Mexican, pressure their daughters to stay at home.
Yeah.
That's one of the biggest things that I find and I hate the most. For let's be honest, like a lot of Mexican dads with daughters come from like the very machisto attitude from Mexico, and let's just be honest, that's just the way our people are. Like we can't deny it. One of the biggest things that I have struggled when I volunteer with partnerships, like for higher education students on track from high school to college, is getting that into the dad's mindset. One time I actually got into it with the dad. So I used to live in Longmont. I grew up there. So anytime I know students from Longmont want to come to college, I try to get very involved with those students through a program that's run down there. And one of the dads was actually like he was kind of like starting to square up with me, and I was like, hey man, you gotta chill, you know. And I remember he was saying, no, my daughter's gonna go to Front Range and she's gonna stay at my house because I don't want her going out there with other people. And I remember I told him, I was like, well, who's gonna be doing the homework, you or your daughter? And he didn't say anything, but I know he got pissed because he walked out of the room. And at the same time, I was kind of heated too, but it's because we were just going back and forth.
Yeah.
No,
We're not gonna have you at the family event, okay?
No, I mean, but the point is, like, sometimes you like do need to get like that with, especially like the dads. Like, I'm not saying it's the best way to approach it, but let's just be honest. Sometimes they need a hard reality check, and they actually do. They need to start breaking out of those systems, because why are you going to limit your daughter who would probably go to the best school for her major to go to a community college first, especially if she's like worked hard for it in high school to get those funds to go to those schools. And those are some of the things that kind of parents don't understand, especially like Mexican dads when it comes to their daughters. Not all of them. There's some dads who are very supportive, but let's be honest, there's still a lot of those dads who like, no, this is my daughter. She's going to do what I tell her to do.
Yeah. And I think everyone has a different path, right? Sometimes people start out in college and then transitions over. So everyone has a different path, but I think you're completely right? Like sometimes family doesn't completely understand that. I think for me, like not only being a staff member, being a past student, and now even like being being able to teach a class and being part of that environment, I think the one thing that I find surprising is for first-gen students specifically, is that, their family idolizes them because if they got to college, they were probably doing really well in high school. And for me, it's the shock factor for them that they're like, oh, I actually have to study. Oh, I actually have to try.
Yeah.
Let's be honest, high school is a piece of cake. Like, you have to try really hard to, like, actually fail. And students go from being a big fish in a small pond to being a small fish in a huge pond.
Everyone's competitive here. Also,
Everyone's competitive. And I think for them, it's a shock factor of, like,
you're not the number one star.
You're not the number one star. I have to try harder now. And I think, like, I've seen that from, like, multiple perspectives of, like, that for students is very shocking. And then many students are, like, if they're failing, they're like, I'm disappointing my family, I'm disappointing this, I'm disappointing that. And it's like, no. It's like you're not disappointing anybody. It's a learning curve, especially your first quarter, your first semester. It's such a learning curve.
Yeah.
And it's like, just as long as you have the confidence and keep going and don't quit, you can do it. But I wish sometimes, and I tell this to all of our students, right, like during career orientation, like, college is going to be very different than high school, but I just want to shake them and be like, college is very different than high school.
They'll be like,
yeah, like, whatever. And then comes week 9, and they're like emailing me, hey, I'm failing a couple classes. What can you do? And I'm like, where were
you
week 9.
Week 1?
Yeah, week 1, week 2, week 3, week 4, week 5, week 6, even week 7. It's week 9, So I think it's that learning curve for our students that, like, I think us working in the office that we do, I think it's something that we got to continue to think about. How can we get that message across to our students? Like, you're not letting your family down if you fail, but also your expectations need to increase for yourself.
I think going off of that, well, one of the biggest shocks, what I went through, and I think a lot of my peers went through, is like, I think how we never notice how bad our mental health is coming into college. How bad it gets once you arrive to college and not knowing how to address that, not knowing how to cope with that. And I think outside of like when we do our programs like One Junior VIP or Eli, like all those programs, if it wasn't for those, I don't think I would be aware of my own mental health and like how important it was. Even outside my major, I mean, I'm a psych major, so that was always important too. But like, I noticed how other peers around me, like we come in week one, we're all excited, like yeah, and then like right now week nine, we're just like, oh, we're just tired, it's okay. And then you're failing classes, and then you don't want to show up anymore. And then it's like it is real, like your mental health, it's like very important. Like it's not that sometimes it's not just because you're tired, it's because like you're going through something, like, and you experience a lot going through college. Like life hits you really sometimes like bad, and like being able to address that and like there are unhealthy ways to address that. I know that. Like, of course, there's always drinking, smoking, and all that stuff available on campus now. Like, those are the unhealthy coping mechanisms that are available here on campus. But I feel like that's like what a lot of my peers turn to, and then it goes into a deeper problem. So.
And I think it even comes back to family, right? Like in our culture,
It's
mental health is non-existent. We don't talk about mental health. It's like man up, woman up, suck it up, like. And it sucks because that's a culture, and like I have a tendency to sometimes be a data nerd, and like data shows right now with Generation Z, mental health is such a huge issue, but yet people don't know how to address or don't know how to deal with their own mental health, and like also that's also a message that I wish everybody would take from it. Like mental health is a real thing, and you need to take care of yourself, and I see this a lot more with my male students and my female students, or my students that identify more as male than female, but it's like. They don't want to talk about their problems, and I sit there with them, and I'm like, look, I have you for the next 4 years. We can do this now or continue to do it throughout the next 4 years. It's easier if we just do it now. But I tell them, I was like, you have to be honest with yourself, and you have to communicate. It's like, I cannot know how to support you or how to give you additional resources if you don't tell me what's honestly going on. And it's a lot with my male students, or my male identifying students. And it's like, I wish like our families would talk more about mental health before coming to college. Like, when George first got here, that's one of the first things we talked about. And I think you asked me, I think I was telling you some piece of advice, and I was like, let's find a therapist. I was like, because it's a real, I'm not saying that you need it, but it's helpful. Like, going through school is, it's there, and it's going through school can be very rigorous, and it takes so much out of you. So I prefer having that resource and not needing it than not having it and needing it.
And like sometimes it's not even like that it happens in college. Sometimes you come in with poor mental health from high school and coming into it with college, and that just adds to it, you know. And like I feel like going to my third year, even this summer, I started seeing my own counselor. Like honestly, like I think that's why I've changed a lot. Like with this happiness and stuff, I noticed like my first 2 years, I wasn't as happy like on campus as I am now. There's a lot of factors that could play into that, but like I found it just so helpful and useful. But again, like you said, like I feel like our families, especially in our community, like they don't see that right away. Like I had a big fight with my own parents, like talking about like I want to go see a counselor. And they're like, "You're not crazy though," and I was like, "It's not about being crazy. It's just like it's for me." Like and trying to get them to understand, you know, kind of that stigma of like only white crazy people need therapy, and it's like that's not the case all the time. Like it's not just textbook and stuff. And like even my dad, like it's weird because like. He believes in it, but he doesn't. Also, like I remember when I was telling him about it, he was just like, "Look, life is not everything like what's written down in a textbook." I was like, "Yeah, but the therapist isn't always going to follow the textbook." I was like, "Look at the research, look at the data. You're not going to argue that and be like, oh, it's not, it's made up and stuff like that."
Yeah. Even with like my younger nieces now and like family, I'm like, "Hey, girl, let's get you a therapist." And then her parents are super against it, and I was like, "Look, girl, I'm over 21 and I can be a guardian." So like, I send her stuff because I'm just like. She wants it and she needs it, but her family's so against it. But I'm glad that like us as being able to grow up, and it's been a process, right? Like mental health was non-existent for probably the three of us when we first started college. It was through developing, researching, going through classes that mental health became such a thing. But it's something I wish we could teach our family, and it's like that piece. It's like they keep pushing back.
Yeah. And I feel like what you said too was parents, like they're like, you know, going to the idea of like. Oh, you're stressed out over a paper bike. Like, why does it matter? And it's like, it's bigger than that. There's a bigger issue sometimes. Sometimes, what is it I meant for? It's like, it's not always like that fight over the sock on the floor. There's always a deeper issue of like why you're getting triggered by those things.
Mm-hmm.
Were you gonna say something?
No.
Oh, I feel like I interrupted.
No, you're good.
But no, I just.
Yeah, and I know we're coming towards the end of this. This one was going to be a bit more short and brief, but we thought it was very important to talk about this because I think. Family is a very important component of who makes all of us. And as you come towards the end of the quarter and kind of start visiting family, like, keep some of these things in mind. And
Any advice for anyone? Like now that people are gonna start going back home and like it's their first quarter already too. Sometimes.
I think with understanding that you haven't completely changed, but if anything, you've gotten different tools to kind of better understand the world, right? So as your family telling you, oh, you think you're better than us, oh, you think you're smarter than us, it's not that. It's that you're learning and you're growing and you have this different knowledge of how the world is functioning, and you maybe have a better understanding of who you are because of your experiences, because of the classes. So don't let anybody tell you otherwise. Know that you're evolving, and it reminds a little bit, somebody put this in class last time, it's like being a caterpillar. You're going to be a caterpillar, then you're going to be a metapod, or your Pokemon references, and then you're going to be a butterfree, you know? So it's like a process, and trust the process, and don't ever let anybody bring you down for that one. That would be my piece of advice.
For me, I would say when I went back first quarter, I mean, I commuted, so I was always home anyways. But like, it's just like that shock of like, okay, one, you get a break, so use that break wisely. Like literally, like self-care, like take a break, rest a lot, because even though I know like 6 weeks is a long time off, honestly, compared to other schools, but use that wisely too. Like take care of yourself, honestly. Like I know other people are like, all right, I'm gonna go working full time again, like so that's great, but use some time also to just like be able to like spend time with your family again, and also like just take care of yourself. I think sleep too. That's what I'm gonna do.
Oh yeah, I'm so excited to catch up on sleep.
No, because now that we're not gonna be bugging you for the 6 weeks, I'm gonna like.
I'll be watching Netflix and laying down in
I'm
bed.
gonna be catching up on shows and movies. Do that, you know? Like I understand, like it's already past finals. Like we're gonna get there, and like you get to relax. Like don't feel guilty either, because I know I felt weird. Once we were on break, I was like, wait, there's nothing else to do. Do I have to do a paper? Like, I was trying to find something. I was like, no, girl, like, chill. Like, there's no homework. Like, you're good. Like, you'll worry about that later.
One thing, don't forget why you're here. Don't forget why you came to school. It's very easy for your parents, especially out-of-state students, their parents influence you to come back home. Come to your local school in the state. But don't forget why you chose the school you went to and why you're there. And don't forget that for a lot of students who, like, are on your programs, who report to faculty and staff and etc. Don't forget that like we care about you too. Your family's gonna care about you, but we care about you too. There's a reason why we work in the position. Like our friend mentioned higher education does not pay a lot, but we do it and we chose it because we love it. And yeah, it has its hard days, it has its good days, but at the end of the day, when we see our students succeed, that to us it makes the whole job worth it.
Yeah.
So don't forget why you're here. Don't forget why you came here, and don't forget why you need to still come back after break and do even better.
You know that we're still here while the rest of you are on break. George and I will be in the office working. So if you need us, if you want some advice, if you are having a bad situation back home and need to come back to school, let us know. You know, use us as a resource. We're here for you.
Emails
we're here to help you. Emails, phone calls. I know many of you text me. If I don't text you back right away, yeah, maybe. And if you do text me, please tell me who it is.
I'm like, you're like.
and then I have to scroll, and I'm like, oh, jeez.
Yeah.
But
if you want to get to know us a little bit more as people, as well as just staff members, it's like the perfect time. We're all on break. Let's go get coffee sometimes. Just get to know you a little bit more as a person. See what things I can help you grow in, what things I can help you excel in. Same with Alfredo. Probably the same thing as well.
Some of the upperclassmen too, like third year, fourth years, are gonna probably be on campus too. That live in state. So if you ever need like help with anything too, I know I'll be still here on campus. I'll still be here around if you ever need any advice or help with anything.
We love you all. Good luck on finals. Happy holidays if we don't get to see you beforehand. And we wish you the best of luck, all right?
Yes, honestly, have a good time. Bye, everyone. See you next time.